All right, welcome back to My Life, Sam Radford. On this episode, we have a very interesting guest from over the pond. He's from London, UK. He's, let's say, okay, he's a filmmaker, a producer, a rapper. Uh, he also was a co-founder of one of the biggest battle leagues in the UK that established the UK's battle presence, which was called Don't Flop. On this episode, we welcome Freddie Cruger.
What's up, man?
How's it
Nice to
going?
meet you, man.
Nice
Yeah,
to meet
good,
you,
man.
man. So, my first question is just your first interaction with hip hop. Like, how did you first get involved? What did you first like fall in love with?
Oh, man, that's a good question. God, I guess it was as soon as I was a teenager, I think I got into music. Like, I'd say like 12, maybe probably 13, really. So I'd say from the teenage years is when I got into it. Just from like basically listening to, because I had an older brother, so he had all like the rap CDs at the time. It was like my first CDs I was listening to was like Nas, Stillmatic, Ludacris, back for the first time. It was like the early 2000s, basically, when I was that age. So there would have come out albums I was listening to just in my mum's car, and yeah, just like I've always liked doing creative things. Like when I was a kid, I was just into like drawing and making comic books or whatever. So when I started, when you're a kid, you don't really appreciate music.
No,
You
yeah.
hit that age where you like suddenly start liking music. So as soon as I started liking music, it was rap music, and it was like I wanted to do it myself automatically. But I was also into like the garage a lot as well back then, which is more like a UK genre of music, where it's more like MC and it has kind of a different background to hip hop. But I'd say both of them things influenced me.
Well, that's kind of
Um,
what I when I was thinking of things to ask you for this episode was right now in the big music industry in the West, like in America and Canada,
mm,
grime is such a big thing. And I
yeah,
know that you have a big background in grime. So maybe I thought I was going to, if you wanted to just speak on your background with grime and how you came to be, because I know there used to be clashes. I forget the channel or the DVDs that they were, but they were in like a
yeah.
basement at the bottom of a
Meet with the
stairs.
mics.
That's how I got introduced.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, man. Yeah, no, honestly, like I feel quite passionate about it because I loved it. That was my first like hip hop, but it was like grime. It wasn't called grime then. It didn't have a name. So I used to just refer to it as like underground garage, but it was a lot more grimy than garage. But that was the kind of shit that made me want to like before I started rapping to like hip hop tempos, I was doing like grime tempos, like MCing over like garage instrumentals. But like it just had its own sound. And my first introduction to it, I guess again because my older brother was listening to it, I was introduced through that way. But like all throughout school and stuff, it was like we listened to it basically through pirate radio. That was the thing. Like everything we listened to was radios, and we used to tape them and little tape cassettes. So I remember, every week it would be like Wiley and Dizzy Rascal, Nasty Crew, all of these people on radio, and like I would just be, I'd be so excited for their sets that would come on each week, and I'd tape them on my little tape cassettes, and I was just like massively into it, man. And then like a few years later down the line, like Channel U started, which was like a channel on like cable or whatever that had like that was the first because we had MTV Base or whatever, but this was the first one that was playing like a lot of UK hip hop and grime tracks. So that kind of opened me up to a whole new load and everyone else to loads of new stuff as well. But I was just big into the scene from early. Like I loved it, and it's got a completely different background than hip hop because it kind of came from the garage, which came from jungle, which has influences from like dancehall and all kinds of different genres. But it's just like I find it really interesting. It's got a completely different background. But obviously, hip hop influences it. Like they all kind of merge together. But yes, it's fascinating, man.
It is fascinating, and I think you bring up a good point because, um, as I mentioned before, like grime was created in the UK, and you say it was formed from so many things, but now it's big in the West or in the Western part of the world, right? And
Yes, worldwide.
I watched this Coachella documentary a few weeks ago, and it was speaking about the beginning of Coachella and how the people in America weren't really used to that type of music, whereas in the UK there was already like an indented scene of house music and like EDM in a sense, like in its elemental forms.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, there's so many different genres that like sort of blend into each other, like the garage and house, and then all the other stuff that came out like dubstep, and there's countless ones, and they're still coming out with new ones all the time. But I've always liked that side of music as well. I'm big into like dance music, electronic music. Yeah, I like all kind of music though, to be honest.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it's tough to not.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
I can't listen to country music, but you know.
yeah, yeah. Fair.
So you like my introduction to you and my knowledge of you is all based on battle rap, but I became a
Mm.
fan from that through other assets and looking into you. But so there was a scene in Don't Flop, or sorry, I messed that up wording. I don't edit. There was a scene in the UK before Don't Flop, which was
Yeah,
Jump Off, and I speak about it on former episodes. I've spoken about it several times. If people listen, they
yeah.
should know by now. Were you a fan of Jump Off, and did you go to the events before? Because I know you founded Don't Flop, but I just
Yeah,
want to know if you had any involvement in being like at Jump Off.
100%. I was big jump off fan, massive jump off fan. That was like from when I was very young. I was into jump off, and that's kind of like when jump off stopped, when there wasn't any jump off going. That's kind of like when we started Don't Flop, because there was no battles going on, and we was like, battle nerds at the time. But but yeah, jump off, man. Like I think I first learned about it from, I used to go to this open mic that I started going to called Dill Real when I was like 16. And that was like my first like time like rapping in front of people. Like there was ciphers outside. It was like this is a completely different scene, like the UK hip hop kind of scene. That was even different to the garage and the grime scene. But this was just a particular spot that was just like it was a sick open mic, sick ciphers outside. It's how I met like Rhyme Asylum and a few other crews in UK hip hop that I'm still cool with now. And Measle, who I started a crew with, Unusual Suspects. And yeah, even around that time is when I sort of met Rowan and we started Don't Flop. So it was all kind of came from that kind of period of time. And I heard about Jump Off from that. I think someone told me about these battles that are going on. So I had to look it up. And at that time, it was before they'd even done street battles, but they had the Professor Green like live kind of battles like on stage kind of thing.
Yeah, was
They
that
were
when
like
they had the big
chalkboards.
boards? Yes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And Professor Green, I saw him when he battled that guy and he called him like the Milky Bar Kid. And he was just like, I was blown away. I was like, I started watching all of the jump off battles. And then I remember when the jump off started uploading street battles. And that was like the first kind of time I saw that kind of, street battles. I can remember it, like them uploading the first one. Because back then it was like, there wasn't a YouTube or anywhere to play the battles. You actually had to download the battles, like a little video file that you play on your QuickTime or whatever. So they used to upload it to their website and you'd download the battles to watch. But yeah, that's it. I was like addicted to street battles from early because I was like young at the time, like 16 or whatever. So I was like bang into it, and I wanted to. I like got obsessed with it. I watched every single battle, and then yeah, I think yeah, probably it's 2000. It probably dates back to that 2005. I don't know. But even if you look on my YouTube channel, you can see my first video was uploaded in YouTube 6 in 2006, and it was the best of Respect BA. That was
Yes,
one of the
I've
first
seen
ones I
those
uploaded to
videos.
you. Yeah. So I was just like download, you know what I mean? Just making compilations from jump off videos. So that's just shows like how like I was into it from back then.
And was that
And
your first involvement in videos, would you say? Because you were the camera guy
yeah,
for Don't Flop when it started, right?
yeah, I was yeah, exactly. And I was more the editor than the camera guy. I did filming later involved, but at the start I did film some, but we mostly got other people to film it, but I was always the guy that edited them. But I didn't know what I was doing when I started Don't Flop. Like a lot of the videos look horrible now, the quality and stuff. I wasn't uploading in the right way. But I mean, even back then it was like completely different YouTube. You couldn't upload in 1080p and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I look back now and I think it all looks so amateur, but you know what I mean? You learn through doing it.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, and I just remember, yeah, with the jumper thing as well. I think I can remember the first battle I went to as well that I saw live was Possessed and Rain when they battled Streets and Spit Semis. And I went to that one like just I think I was 16 at the time, and you can see me in the back during the battle or whatever. But that was the first one I saw live, I remember. And then little after that, in 2007, when Ark and entered WRCs, I came to like all the qualifiers and all the the main WRC day, and like seeing the battles live, that was a whole different buzz as well. And like from then I was like itching to jump in, but I didn't jump in till like a couple years later when we started Don't Flop.
All right, that's awesome. Like, and Kruger is being humble, but like Kruger is I'd say probably one of the best battlers. That's like, and it's funny too because I was like thinking about it today when I was thinking of questions or just trying to like jot down stuff. Is I was thinking he's accomplished so many things. He founded a battle league. He's an accomplished MC. He's an accomplished grime artist, and he also had a big part in Lad Bible. And then I started rewatching his battles because I used to be such a fan of his battles, and I'm watching them, and he would go. In 2009, he went from the UK to Oakland to at one of the biggest battle events ever called Battle of the Bay 5, and he battled this guy called Illusion Z. And one of my favorite things when I watch battles, we were speaking about camera work and how battles it got better over the years, is you almost get used to seeing the faces in the crowd that react, and like you almost look for the reaction. And what I love is seeing people's genuine reaction when they can just respect a great MC. So like you had already established yourself in the UK and everything. What was it like flying? I don't know, how many miles? Like 6,000 miles or something?
I don't even know. It's a long way.
Yeah.
But
what was it like being that? Because it's such a big thing, and you probably weren't known to many people compared to a Don't Flop event in the UK in 2008, 2009.
100%, man. That was definitely my breakthrough moment. And honestly, it's one of my favorite battle memories. Like I will never beat that feeling of going over and performing in front of that crowd at that event. And like after being such a big grind time fan and watching all these people, watching Lush One host and all these people, and then suddenly being there in front of like, and all these legends, like, you know, judging and stuff like that. It was just like, it was, and you're dumbfounded, and all these like rappers that like I love and Saurus, like just seeing them in the crowd reacting and stuff was just like a special feeling. But like, I came there to kill it. And I just really like, it was a great opportunity for me to kind of like, because I knew it was the first time I'd be seen by a lot of people. So I just knew that I had to show up, and I just used all the things that I learned from, like, even back when I was in the open mic I used to go to, I was telling you about. I learned so much from the rappers there, like in the ciphers and that, all about like projection and like, you know, being like the loudest and getting, you know, performing basically. I learned so much from those street ciphers and stuff, and like watching battles as well, obviously. So watching all these battles, and doing Don't Flop, and battling myself, obviously. Like I think if you look back to my first battle, there was actually in the battle that was actually we did for Don't Flop that we never released. The first films we did for Don't Flop, and I was so awful in that. I didn't want to upload it because it's too embarrassing. But they actually show a snippet of it in this documentary called War of Words, which is like a documentary about the UK battle scene and stuff. It's really good. You should check it out.
It's a really good. If anybody is a fan of battle rap or anything, I suggest you watch it, or even as an intro to it. It's a good all around film. It's great. I loved it. It was funny. I came across it one day randomly. But sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, that documentary as well was a mad experience, because I was just like, it's weird watching something that documents like a whole part of your life. Do you know what I mean? So I loved seeing that, and they did a really good job with that. But yeah, back to what I was saying, the battle in Illusion Z, it was just like, I knew I was going to be performing in front of a big crowd. I knew that. I'd seen all these West Coast events. So I knew that I had to project, and I knew I had to like come with some shit, do you know what I mean? And back then it was like timed rounds, and it were really short rounds. I think it was 1 minute rounds, 3 1 minute rounds. And then you prepare an OT round that you might not use. So I think I had an OT round for Illusion Z that I didn't even get to use.
Which is insane.
I know. And like, you know, sometimes I think after a while they started doing the promo OTs just as like a given. But I think at that point we didn't even do the promo OT. We were just like, I managed to win it in 3, and I was happy with that. But yeah, crazy. And I just remember that back then it was all about, because you have 1 minute, I was just like, I need to fit as many punchlines in as possible. So that's why I kept all my setups really short, just like, how can I get to the point as quick as possible? And that's kind of like how I've tried to make my style in general in battling, is just try cram as much in as possible. Obviously there's some of it you like to, you can tell a story, you can build it, you can obviously play with different things. But I've always been a fan of like the battlers that just like are so quick. Like that's why Dumbfounded was one of my favorites at the time, and still is, because he was just so good at just like reeling them out, just like quick sentences, just like set up this, and just like being comedic with it and the timing. But yeah, I was influenced by all these different rappers, definitely.
Well, yeah, that's a good marking point. And upon that, no, I actually think you and Dumbfounded are very comparable because I'm such a fan of you two because it's just punch after punch after punch after punch. I was
Yeah.
watching Kruger had a battle versus a guy called Conceited, who, if people aren't battle fans, you might be know him from Wild 'N Out or other MTV shows. But Kruger just like it's like if you were watching a fight, like the guy was putting up a fight, but Kruger's just beating the shit out of him. Like he has him on the ground, and the guy's like, if you're in like into UFC, the guy's like trying to grapple him, but Kruger's just jabbing him in the face and jabbing him in the face and jabbing him in the face. And I would compare that to maybe like a Dumbfounded versus Pumpkinhead, which is an
Mm.
amazing battle, and it's great fought. But Dumbfounded, like that was one of the battles that got me into it. Like his
Yeah.
line about like you're still Pumpkin from the block, or like you used to play
Mm.
Mario Brothers, the board game, things
The
like
board
that.
game. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But upon that, you were speaking about um, artists that inspire you. I
Mm.
find you have a great sound, and like all of your, I love all of your music because it's very punchy as well. And
Mm.
who influenced you? Like let's I don't want to go crazy extensive. I like to do like random things. So like maybe like two from America or two from the UK, like two MCs from America or two MCs or garage artists from the UK.
Damn, that is a tough one, man. I always find it hard to pinpoint because there's so many different artists. Like I got the Busta Rhymes top on right now, so
That's
Busta Rhymes is one of them. But I won't count him. I'll think of some other ones. Let me
Oh,
think.
dude, just we can just riff. Like, it's for me,
Yeah,
I love it, right? So,
I know. Yeah, I know. There's just so many, and like I like for different reasons and stuff. But if I think back early, especially because of my style and stuff, I'd have to put Eminem in there. Like early Eminem in the like I was obsessed with like the Eminem in the late 90s, like before he blew up, like all his radio freestyles and all his underground tracks and stuff. That's the shit that I loved, like just his like just straight verses. Like I loved that shit. That definitely influenced me. Um like there's so many artists I like Nas, Biggie, Tupac, like all of these artists I've like listened, I bang out their music so much, and Jay-Z, like musically, but I don't know if they influenced me like MC wise. I'm not sure.
yeah, well,
I've
I
got like a
had
sort of different
an
style.
example would be when I spoke to Lush one, we were talking about I was asking them the same question. And my example was a lot of people love Eminem and think he started his own style, whereas if you're a big fan I'm sure you know that his style is kind of formulated after Tretch from Naughty by Nature. And
Yeah,
so like
yeah,
the
yeah.
way that you rap, I always think that I can feel like I'm here listening to somebody else, but I can never pinpoint it.
Yeah. Oh man, that's really interesting. Yeah, I don't even know, man. There's so many people. Like Pharoah Monch was actually a big one as well. I loved his first album and like a lot of his tracks where he just go in crazy flows. But I wouldn't even say that's something that I really like ever copied or anything. But there's a lot of UK hip hop artists I'd say I'd throw in there as well. Do you know what I mean? Like rappers like Jest. Um, who else? Lee Scott. Possessed, Rhyme Asylum in general, all of them. Like here, when I was talking about this open mic I used to go to, like seeing them spit live and stuff, that really influenced me at a young age, definitely style wise, and just being like punchline heavy. I've always liked the punchline MCs. I think that another group I was really into was Demigods. I used to love Self-Titled and Lewis Logic. I like they would like technical rappers like using multis and punchlines. Like there was like Rise actually from that crew as well. He was sick. I was looking for like people that use punchlines, like that kind of style of rap. Like that was the kind of shit that I really associated with. That's why Eminem was in there. Um, I was like, yeah, Young Z, Outsiders. Like, yeah, there's so many.
Well, it's a good point because before I'm sure I knew about battle rap as a kid, like, but like, I'm thinking about it, instilling it in my mind. Like, I'm sure I, knew about like freestyle battles or like, watched 8 Mile. But before I was into battle rap, I listened to a lot of Demigods, Nonfiction, Jedi Mind Tricks,
Same.
Army of the Pharaohs, all those kind of guys. And I think the reason that I love battle rap so much was because it's basically a battle verse in every song and all those.
Yeah,
It's not like they're making a story like Dear Mama by Tupac or something. They're
yeah,
basically like 16 bars of fuck you, kind of.
yeah. That's why I loved battle rap so much, because I was into that music the most. I like punchline MCs. Cannabis. I didn't even say Cannabis. I definitely throw Cannabis in there. Cannabis like was sick. He like, yeah, his shit was insane. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
That whole style of music. I could, yeah, and like I can't, yeah, I don't even know what the first. I even seen like the Jin battles was probably the first battles I would have watched. Like just seeing that the viral clips on the internet of him battling the guy like, check your Tims. They probably say made in China. Yeah. All of that. That's classic. Mortal Technique was another one I was big into back in the day. There's countless.
Do you ever think it's kind of morbid? Because I'm pretty sure, like, I've been following you a long time. Like, I think you were a big Necro fan at one point. I was a big Necro fan at one point. 100%. Do you ever look back and wonder at, like, I was like 13, 14 listening to Dead Body Disposal and Dance with the Devil. And I'm like, what was I so passionate about with those? And thank God I didn't act out, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I was into all of that dark shit. Like I got very fascinated with the dark style of music, and it influenced my music. Particularly, I kind of went down a very dark route, and I still have dark kind of traits in my music. But yeah, no, I've always, and Necro's production was just amazing as well. Like as a producer, you can't fault him.
The beats, like, what's so great with Necro and so funny is the beats. It's like a symphony of like the quintessential hip hop song, and then he comes in with "I'm gonna kill you," you know?
Yeah. I just remember hearing. I always remember hearing the first tracks. I think it was Necro and Ill Bill, "You're Dead." That track I heard was the first track I heard from them lot. Anyway, and like Necro, Ill Bill and stuff, and like I was just like blown away. It felt so different. Like I'd never heard anything like it, and I was automatically like, "What is this?" Like I need to find out more about this and download it all. Back in the downloading from LimeWire days. And I miss that kind of like when you're a teenager and discovering all these artists. I mean, you still discover artists now, like it still happens. But that thing when everything's so fresh and you're like entering the world of hip hop and like you're kind of like doing your hip hop knowledge, learning about the history and all these different rappers and the different styles of music. But yeah, I really miss that. Like just
it's tough because like so much that's put out today is the same, right? Like one cool thing that I look back on, because I was such a fan of underground hip hop as a young kid, is like I didn't find out about Tribe Called Quest till I was like 18, and now Phife Dawg's like my favorite rapper. So there is those little hidden gems, but I miss that, man. Or like you'd find a feature of an artist on LimeWire, and then you'd look them on up. I remember thinking MF Doom had a bunch of different features when it was just him, you know?
Yeah.
Like Victor Vaughn and people like that. So with Don't Flop, you guys started out and it, just like anything at the time, you guys started out in the street and you went on to have some of the biggest venues that it looked like in the UK for performance wise. Like what was like, what did it feel like to you? Did it just feel like life wasn't real?
Yeah, man, it definitely was an amazing feeling, but it didn't happen overnight. It was like, it was so gradual where it was like, we've been doing it for years, like, and it started off just like, just doing them like doing street battles just with our mates and just like a small crowd of people we know. And then it gradually just got bigger and bigger. And even I think doing our first like event kind of thing where we actually charged people to get in, and we had a decent turnout. And like that, from that moment, it felt amazing. I was like, wow, like, but then like years later, we'd be doing like, 1,000 people in the crowd and stuff like that. But it was such a long way to that, where we did so many events, like so many events where like hardly anyone turned up, so many events where it was like, there's too much space in the room. And then, just they started packing out, but like years down the line, like after like getting like, but we loved it even when it wasn't like as popular as it kind of blew up to be. We just loved it. Like we were rappers, we were into rap. We just loved finding new rappers, like putting them on, and like, just like battles in general. But yeah, of course, like it felt amazing, like doing these shows. And we were doing like shows like sometimes every weekend, or do you know what I mean, or twice a month, 3 times a month. Like, so it was just so, it was our life, do you know what I mean, like, and that was our work, and it was everything was Don't Flop. So it was an amazing feeling, man. Like the birthday events always felt like a sort of annual celebration where it was just like the whole year kind of led up to this big event we do at the end. And every other event was kind of just like building up to this big thing. So it was always something to look forward to. And the birthdays just got bigger and better each year. It wasn't until like the fourth birthday the fourth birthday was one of our best events, where we had Shotty versus Arsenal, Tony D versus O'Shea. It was like one of our best events of all time, I'd say. But the third birthday was not like a special event at all. The second birthday was, okay. I think we had O'Shea versus Flex Digits. We actually had Ed Sheeran performing at our second birthday as well.
Ed Sheeran, as well as didn't Dizzy Rascal used to actually battle in Don't Flop?
No, not Dizzy Rascal.
Or was it? Who was it? Sorry.
I don't know what
of?
bit you're talking about, but we basically at that event at the
Is it
second
Rizzle
birthday,
Kicks? I'm sorry.
Rizzle, yes,
My
Rizzle.
bad.
Yeah, he
Sorry.
used to battle. Yeah. Rizzle Kicks. Yeah. He battled, and that was before he was famous. And it's the same thing with Ed Sheeran. Is he like performed at our sets, and he went to a few of our events, judged and stuff, and he performed at our second birthday back when he just like he wasn't a name, he was still building up. This is in 2010. So it's crazy how things can change, and now he's like the biggest selling artist. But Cannabis was supposed to perform at our second birthday as well, but he didn't actually come through. So it was like Cannabis performing, Ed Sheeran supporting, and then all these bunch of battles. That was our second birthday event, but Cannabis didn't come for some reason. This is way before Cannabis Battle Disaster and all that stuff. But yeah, man. So it's crazy. I even forgot what the point what I was coming from. But what were we talking about?
I was so involved.
I got so I forgot my original point.
It's just I started this podcast out being like everybody, like the whole world is so interesting. It's such a small world, and I can't remember the question that I begin it with. But we went on to you speaking about that Ed Sheeran performed before he was famous. Like, isn't that so funny to think of things like that, or like that you see people before, you know what I mean? Like, that's why to me battle rap was so cool. Is it such a it's so multifaceted. Like so Cruger was speaking about the events. The question was, I said like, what was it like blowing up? But I gave you too little of a question because you guys took like 5 years till you had crazy events. But so what Cruger was talking about is they had so many events going on, and what was so cool with Don't Flop, and I refer to battle rap and battle rap leagues almost as like sports teams and sports seasons, because he was talking about the birthday event. And as a battle rap fan, you always know like there's this thing's gonna happen. Like as a basketball fan, March Madness is in March, whereas like back in the day, King of the Dot would have Blackout in February or something like that. And I went to the UK in 2012 in December. And at the time, Don't Flop was doing something called the House Party Tour. And
in the house tour,
in the house tour, sorry. And it was such a cool thing. So battle rap was blooming and blowing up, and venues were accepting them, and they were making lots of money. But Don't Flop did this very cool concept where Cruger, the other founder, and a couple battlers and a cameraman were traveling around in cars to little small towns in England and trying to find talent. And I found that to be so cool. Like talk about your experience with that.
That was an amazing experience. That was honestly so funny. You can still watch him now in the house tour. It was nice doing, because we just did battles as well. This was our first time doing something a bit more like a documentary, or like, like it was such a cool concept. What it was we had two battlers we were traveling with, and we were, instead of going to events, it was, we will bring the battles to you. So you just got to contact us with like a venue. It could be like, we'll perform in your living room. We can perform in your like uni halls. We'll perform in your like whatever. We got like applied to perform in like a wrestling match, in like a backyard wrestling. And like it took us to the craziest places, and it was like all around the country. So it was like we worked out like a road trip where we'd like travel around the country, hitting up all these different spots, and they'd be so different, from like a small little town in the middle of like nowhere to like in someone's room, like at a house party, to like in someone's university, like. And it was such a mad experience, like entering all these, like, rather than people coming to the battles, it was like the battles were coming to them. And like filming it was just interesting as a documentary, like traveling to all these places, and like just the amount of banter and stuff we had, like going between each places, and like the traveling and like the filming like constantly, and just seeing what comes out, like a day in the life kind of thing. And it just produced some great content. And we only did one series of In the House tour, and we always planned to do more every year, but it just never got around to getting done, basically. But yeah, I wish we did more of those, to be honest, because that
It
was
was
such a cool concept, and it was
it,
amazing.
it was so cool because as a fan, you get to look into the people's lives, but then like you guys interact with people that you would never think too. Like I remember watching that series and you guys battled at a chip shop and there was a local band
Yeah,
performing and you guys did a cipher. And
yeah,
the funny thing to me is because I was always kind of like a fan in a small town in Canada. So like
yeah.
few and far between where you know other people that are fans of it. So
Mm.
it was such a cool thing for me to watch because it was usually a guy who was a big fan, it seemed, who would get you to come and like half the crowd didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah,
But that's
exactly
what's
that.
so cool with battle rap. It was such an interesting introduction, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the documentary was great too because it showed like the humbleness of what you guys had to do. Like you guys were trying to battle in a retail clothing store at one point.
yeah.
And
That was funny.
and I remember like
Yeah,
you guys had the two MCs who would battle at every single place, and like you'd know like he'd be like, okay, he just flipped his shirt inside out because he didn't have a change of clothing, and they're clearly
yeah,
on
yeah,
tour, literally, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh man, that was such a great experience. And like honestly, another thing I really miss about Don't Flop is just the traveling to different parts of the country and traveling abroad as well, obviously. But just like the whole traveling, touring lifestyle of like yeah, touring, staying in people's houses, staying in hotels sometimes, staying with different people, meeting different people in different places. That's the other thing about the with Don't Flop as well, was like the community we kind of built up, like the scene. And like I actually saw like a scene develop from like me being in like these early kind of scenes, like the UK hip hop scene and stuff like that, but like not being fully into it, just being like a young kind of kid, just like observing it. But then to start the Don't Flop events and then like having regulars come and like people come and go, and just like to seeing it develop and like it becoming like a scene and like a community of people that like I love. And like now when there's events and you see people, it feels like a little reunion because we all know each other, but we only see each other at events. So it's just, that's one of the aspects that I really liked about Don't Flop, is the community we built up and just the scene of people.
Well, I'll tell you as a fan from Canada, like I was a complete battle rap fan, so I followed King of the Dot, URL, Grind Time, and
Yeah,
Grind Time's Demise. But what I found so cool with you guys was, man, I learned about different parts of England without ever being there before I went.
yeah,
I knew about acts, like I knew that if you're from Liverpool, you're a Scouse, you're a Geordie, if
yes,
you're from Newcastle, you
yeah,
learn all these different things, and it was so interesting to me because there's on the western part of the world, we all have you try the terrible British accent, whereas most
yeah,
good actors in Hollywood are British doing American accents. And like
yeah,
you learn that it's crazy for such a small and dense country. There's so many different accents and different people and stuff. And like that
yeah,
to me was so cool with Don't Flop because it was so interactive and like
yeah,
and you guys had a roster as well. And it's like, if there was an event in Leeds, like a guy like Lunar Sea was going to battle. If you were
yeah,
in like Manchester, O'Shea was going to battle. And it
yeah.
was just so cool. And to me too, man, like as just a fan, I've gained so many friendships just through battle rap for being a fan.
Oh
Like,
yeah, 100%, man. Yeah.
there's a girl who used to battle for you guys called Sigourney Fizzle,
Oh
and
yeah.
when I was in Manchester visiting my granddad, I had told myself I'm not going to smoke weed while I'm in England. Like I'm going to cut off for 2 weeks. My
Yeah.
first day, I caved, and I knew that she lived in Manchester, and my granddad lived outside of Manchester, and I was like, hey, any chance you could get me weed?
Yeah.
And she ended up like hooking me up with a guy who was like a DJ
Yeah.
friend of hers, and me and
Yeah.
him still talk to this day. And he wasn't even a battle fan. He just did her a favor.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's just
That's
so
so interesting.
funny. The world is such a small place, man.
Yeah. Have you been to the UK? How many times have you been here, over here?
Just once, yeah.
In
But
the 2012. Did you come to
2000,
any events during that time?
I went to set the standard. I think it was
Which one was that? In December?
did Eek battle um uh Flex Digits? Is that timing wrong?
Oh shit. That
It
one.
might be
The
right
one in Manchester, yeah, where
because I was there, right? Like that was my goal. I was like, I gotta.
Eek battled Flex Digits. Oh,
I
I remember
messaged
that
you.
event.
If you look into your Facebook
Yeah.
messages, it's me
Okay.
messaging you saying, "Hey, I'm wondering if there's an event going on." I was
Oh
too scared to
shit.
introduce
Yeah.
myself. I was too scared to introduce myself. I was just in the
Yeah.
back, but yeah, I
Wow.
I got to go to a
That's
Don't
so
Flop
interesting.
event. Yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I remember that event now. Yeah,
Yeah,
can't
no,
remember what other battles there were. I think Chris Lee's battle, did he? Battled.
It was. I just remember it was a big build up because I was a big fan of Flex Digits and Psychosis Holocaust, and
Yeah.
like I found like they were like they didn't battle that much at that point, and that's when like all you guys had like your newcomers coming in from like
Yeah.
Eek and Mickey Worthless and
Yeah.
Pedro and all those guys,
Yeah.
and I just remember like hating Eek so much because you guys. I think it might have been part of the In the House tour at the end. Did you
Yeah.
guys?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You guys had your last battle from the In the House tour at that event.
That wasn't the same event, was it?
I might be
Was
wrong,
that the
but
same event?
I think it might be
I
the
don't.
same event because you guys, there's footage of Eek.
But you came in. You said it was in December, right?
It's when Eek was ranting about Slim Shady in his house. You guys stayed in his
Yes.
house. Was that
Yeah.
the?
Yeah. Yeah. That I don't know if it was the same event that you were at though, because if that was in December, if you came in December, I think the event in December was the one where, like you
Was
said, where Flex Digits battled Eek. But I think, oh, you saying the grudge started from that?
Yeah, I
Maybe.
think so. I
Because
think
that was a
so.
grudge match, Flex
Yeah.
Digits versus Eek, and it
Yeah,
had
and
this
there was the
beef
whole.
bubbling up.
Yes.
It all started from that episode.
Okay, so my
That
timeline's
was it,
wrong,
yeah.
but it's it's just
but
funny how it
it's
all works.
connected, which I didn't even realize until you started saying it. But that was, I think, that's how their grudge kind of started, was from that night
Well, and
in
you
the
guys
house tour.
stayed at Eek's house, and he got
Yes.
completely drunk and belligerent, and was
Yes.
trying to get you guys to all rap like Eminem and convince you that only Eminem is the good rapper.
Yeah. That was hilarious. Hilarious. I need to go back and watch that, man. Fucking hell.
Well, so man, as a fan, right, for battling, like I said, I compare it to basketball, whatever, football, but then
Yeah.
also in a sense like wrestling. You have so many characters, and you look like
Yeah.
like I remember there's the video of Pedro's like a guy who's maybe like I don't know, I never met him, maybe like 5'9" or 5'8", and he
Yeah.
punches this guy who's like double his weight and double his size, who could
Yeah.
clearly beat him up. But Pedro was like, "Are you fucking mad, cunt?" And
Yeah.
and like there's certain, like, as a fan of it, it's so cool because you look forward to certain personalities.
Oh,
Like,
there's so many personalities, man.
like
There
for
was some
you, a cool
real
one might have
great
been.
characters.
Didn't you guys have two journalists battle each other?
Yeah.
Rest in peace to
Yeah.
Pete Cashmore.
Rest in peace, Pete Cashmore. Yeah, Pete Cashmore and Bent Legs, I think, who used to do the blogs for Don't Flop.
Yes,
I think
and
that was the first one.
what
On
was that
April
like?
Fools.
Having two
That was
journalists who
fun
never battled.
because that was kind of like two non-rappers rapping for the first time, kind of thing. That was like the buzz of it, and it was like during our absolute golden age, in my opinion, 2012. Like that event was just really special. April Fools, like our April Fools events were so cool as well because that's when we do all these like mad concept battles, and there was so many interesting battles I think we did through concepts. So like kind of people didn't really notice, I guess.
Oh well, you
Like, we did
guys
a
had.
singing battle where like people were like singing like like remixing like famous songs, but like turning them into disses. I thought that was hilarious. Bowski versus Mixie, I think. But there was so many like, and there's character battles, what I mean, people dressing up and all that kind of stuff, which I get. Sometimes people see it as a bit like a gimmicky or whatever. But some of the concepts are brilliant, and I loved was the beatboxing battles. Was having a beatboxer and a rapper at the same time, like a rapper with a beatboxer, 2-on-2 versus a beatboxer and a rapper. I thought that was so cool, which could have been its own like subgenre of like things that never really picked up. But like when we did it in the April Fools events, they were always really like went down really well. I'd love to see the kind of more. That's kind of like one thing that I feel like there's so many directions battling can go in, but like the bringing the music and the battling together again. I know there are leagues that do it.
It's the pure form. I think what you guys were doing with Don't Flop with that sense was I could know that there was a Don't Flop event in that golden era, and I would know that I'm going to get a schedule of battles that are on a main card, and I know like when they're being released, and then I would know that there was like sometimes you guys had freestyle tournaments. Like at one point you had a guy called Soweto Kinch who was not really a guy who did pre-written battles, and you had him battle Sharon, who was known for freestyling.
Yeah, and he's a sax, like a jazz player, has won awards and shit. He's a famous jazz saxophone player, and he's on TV all the time, like doing hosting documentaries about jazz and stuff. He's like a huge name. It's crazy.
The UK is so cool, man. I find it's just like everybody like okay, Ed Sheeran, and then like this guy battled who was a famous jazz musician. I remember.
Yeah.
Didn't Mickey Worthless, one of your guys, have a beef with like a British Got Talent singer or something? Yeah.
James Arthur, yeah. Yeah, man. There was loads of things like that, like the little connections to celebrity. It was crazy.
Well,
It's
and
mad how things can change as well.
you guys even had like, man, one of the like, if I recommend battles to people who don't watch stuff, Blizzard versus Mark Grist. Mark Grist was a teacher and Blizzard was
Yeah,
a teenager, and it was like a
yeah.
whole concept of like teacher versus student, and like,
That was the battle that really blew up. Don't flop.
oh,
That's
it
the
was,
one that changed everything.
yeah,
Yeah, we were like that was like our first video to go viral. Like that's like it brought us so much attention that we didn't even like. It was crazy. Like the way the views were just going up, and then suddenly like Channel 4 wanted. I was on like national TV, kind of doing a piece about that battle kind of thing. Channel 4 documenting come into my house and filming us, and then me being broadcasted on like main TV about this battle. Like it was just like a different level. And then like it would feature on like TV programs like Rude Box, not Rude Box. Is it Rude Box? Rude Tube? I can't remember. One of these shows, but yeah, just like crazy, and just like the blogs, like all the different buzz feeds and everyone just blogging it, and just like it just blew up, and the views just went crazy, and that's kind of the turning point for Don't Flop, I would say. It was that, but it's also a mix of like so many other things that were happening at the time. Like Lunacy was insanely popular around that same time. Shotty Horror, all these things were happening around the similar time, and that's why I think a lot of people look back at 2012 as the golden age, because I think that's when our events were. That's when the events started getting really packed out as well, and we built up like a solid name. And I definitely think it's like the golden age for me, 2012.
yeah. And for me as a fan, that's when battle rap peaked for me. For it to
Yeah,
like, I still follow it, I still see what's being uploaded, but just like kind of the music scene these days, I find it very saturated. And kind of
yeah,
after I grew up, I jokingly at home make like funny puns that people take seriously at like a gangster rap event, and so
yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of,
yeah,
the love
yeah,
is gone, because like what I also used to love, man, was you spoke about earlier how back in the day you'd have to have a solid 60 seconds for 3 rounds, and then
yeah,
impossible have a overtime. And so
yeah,
that it was so fun to watch, because like, this guy's record is like 7-2, and so like he's gonna be like, or you have a guy who's like lost every battle he's ever done, but then like he has one good performance. Like that was so
yeah.
captivating, and that's when you guys were doing like uh playoffs tournaments. Like you guys
Mm,
had 2-on-2 tournaments and 1-on-1 tournaments, and that's how you guys
yeah.
would define who the champion of Don't Flop would be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting all that like the judging battles, and then it kind of just went away, and then all battles were promo pretty much for a long time. But yeah, the competition aspect is definitely plays a part. I think it's like, but yeah, it goes, and like the battles got longer. When it was timed, it was kind of like it was competition, so it was important for it to be timed. Then it was all promo, so it was like, oh, we may as well not time it. Do you know what I mean? So the rounds got longer, no OTs, just like, and then the rounds times of battles just generally got longer and longer. But I like the short battles. I really like the short rounds. Like I'm quite old school, or I think like 90-second rounds. Like it's still quite short, but I think I was that was how I did most of my battles anyway.
Well, it's straight to the point, and if you're trying to
Yeah,
show somebody who doesn't know about it, I don't think somebody's going to want to watch an hour and a half
yeah,
of bars.
yeah. I like the back to backness of it as well. You know what I
It's
mean?
just
I
it's
really,
just like what Scribble Jam was so great. If you like, one of
yeah.
my favorite ones is Thesaurus and Justice. Is like right
Oh
when
yeah.
somebody would end, the other would come right back with a punch.
Yes, that was one of. I remember that was one of the first battles I saw. Not first battles, but like I remember seeing that very early on like YouTube or whatever it was. Seeing Justice versus Thesaurus, and it blew my mind. That was my first time seeing Thesaurus, and just Justice, like hearing this guy from Australia. Like it was just like, and like the way that they were like so like sick with the multis on the beats, like that was kind of like a big influence, I'd say, as well. Was hearing those battles and Scribble Jam battles and stuff. I remember like downloading some Scribble Jam battles like on audio on LimeWire as well, like Ilmac versus Swan and stuff like that. And like I was like hearing these disses like so complex, I was like blown away.
Yeah, man.
But,
That's
yeah, man.
it's battle rap is just such a, to me, it's part of my life. My dad says to me that he thinks I talk too fast and I'm too combative with conversations because of battle rap.
Really?
Which kind of makes sense in a way. But
Yeah.
so like for me, what I'm so interested in with you is because like, you're such a multifaceted person, and I know like after we were talking about the peak of battling, and then everything kind of like started to dwindle a little in the battle world and like stuff like that. And you know,
Yeah,
you can only be a certain age for so long. Like you can only party and play beer pong at 22 for like a year or two. You can't be playing beer pong at like 35, you know?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so how did you come across Lad Bible and working with Lad Bible? Because for me, in Canada, it's one of the most viral things we see. Like you see,
Yeah,
we don't even know Lad Bible was a UK thing like a couple of
it's really
years in.
interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting. So I started working at UniLad first. There's two pages. There's UniLad and Lad Bible. And back in the day, anyway, now Lad Bible owns UniLad. But back before, they were owned by different people, and they were, they had a little rivalry. They were kind of competitors, but they were both doing the same thing, viral content. So I started working at UniLad, and I actually, interestingly enough, was one of the first people, which is our kind of link into the UniLad world, was our graphic designer, who was a full-time staff at Don't Flop, Sam Ridgway. Sam Graphics, also known as. He was actually involved with UniLad from like the very early days, like when it kind of started. He was part of that UniLad team. So that kind of was going on as he stopped working for Don't Flop. He started working for UniLad, and then UniLad became huge. We were like in discussions of doing like things with Don't Flop and UniLad together that never came to fruition. But so there was always that link there, and then I think Liam, who I live with at the moment, who I live with, is my flatmate. He's also the guy who films all the
Liam
Don't Flop
Bagnall,
battles.
Liam
Liam
Bagnall,
Bagnall.
the number one battle rap filmer in all of Europe.
Yeah, Body Bagnall, Bags. Yeah, he started working at UniLad first because they were based in Manchester, and then they started a London office in like 2015, 2016, something like that. And so Liam started working there. There was a few other people that was like Charlie, who filmed for Don't Flop. He started working there. Bamalam, who was worked for Don't Flop as well. He started working there. And then when they started all working there, it was kind of, I went through a transit. I was doing Don't Flop and UniLad at the same time for a while. But things didn't work out with Don't Flop for whatever reason. So I kind of just went down the UniLad route. And in this space and time where I joined UniLad, I saw it change so much from, being in a small office with like a small amount of people to like them moving to like a huge office and like hiring so many people, and like it just like grew like massively. Suddenly I'm doing all these like shoots in like different countries and like working with these huge brands, and like it kind of blew up very quickly. And then having like a managerial role of like hiring people and hiring different editors and being like the senior editor, and just like an amazing team of people that I learned so much entering that kind of world, because I was kind of, before that I was in the I just did Don't Flop and that's all I did. But that was amazing. That was like great. As far as editing goes, it was kind of like I did a lot of battles. Like In the House tour was interesting because I did documentary kind of style, but the majority of what I was editing was battles, sometimes music videos, sometimes other music promo, stuff like that. But doing the UniLad videos, I learned so much about like making like narrative pieces and like documentaries and all different styles of content, like all different styles of like internet based content, short form content. Nothing like that long. A lot of the videos were like 5 minutes or 3 minutes, 2 minutes. Sometimes it'll be 10 minutes, sometimes it'll be half an hour. But it gave me so much range of like learning about all these different types of content to edit in. So it was kind of like, it was as it was growing and expanding, I kind of grew and expand with it and learned a lot of new kind of things about editing and stuff like that, and sharpen my sword, shall I say. And it was cool, man. I learned so much from it. And basically UniLad got to a point where it was so big, they got into like a lot of problems, tax problems. I don't know like the full story to explain it, but they basically went into administration. So that basically means that they like owed too much money, and like the whole company had to shut down, and they had to basically, and at this point it was kind of like another company could buy the company, and the company that ended up buying it was Lad Bible, so which was a competitor at the time. So Lad Bible bought UniLad. Then like it was like a big change from going from UniLad to Lad Bible, which I was in part of that transition where like loads of people left UniLad and a few people went over to Lad Bible, but I was one of the few that went over. And then it was kind of like moving office, moving into like a new company. It's kind of like a new job in a way, but doing similar thing. But they have their different ways of doing it, if you know what I mean. It's a kind of different set of people. But so that was interesting as well, like learning like the differences between how they run it and then how Lad Bible ran it, and made so many good connections and met so many good people for both those companies, and like it helped me grow so much. And like I loved my years at UniLad and Lad Bible. I left Lad Bible after a year there after UniLad, and I joined another company, which is a production company called Cowshed Social. With like, it's a smaller team, but we're doing, still like a bit working with big brands and stuff. So it's been like a really great experience, really, like moving from place to place and like working with all these different people.
That's so cool, man. All right, this is gonna be the section where it's just kind of like random. What's it like right now? So right now, I'm recording this episode on April 1st, 2021. What's it like in the UK right now with COVID?
With COVID, it's we've been in lockdown for like ages. Like nothing's been open at all apart from shops and supermarkets. So there's no clubs, no pubs or anything like that open. Kind of like, because the weather's been bad, everyone's been in their houses. But as of like this week, it's like the weather's got really good. Like we had the hottest March day in like 52 years or something like that.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it's like really hot at the moment. So since it's been hot, everyone's been out like in the parks and stuff. You know what I mean? So everyone's just like hitting the parks. So there's a lot of people out and about right now, but then a lot of people are getting vaccinated as well. So I don't know what that means or anything, but during winter, it's been pretty like everyone's just been in their homes. Do you know what I mean? We didn't even have Christmas with our family or whatever. Like everyone was just told to stay at home. And it's been kind of like throughout the whole year, it's been like on and off. Like they'll, open up some things, restrictions, and then they'll take it away. Open it up a little bit, take it away. But it's been locked down forever. But it's actually, I think they're easing their restrictions soon. I think they're starting like open outdoor. You can go to like bars that are outdoor and restaurants that are outdoors. But it's changing gradually. But yeah, it's been a mad time of all of our lives.
Man, it's so for us in Canada, it's the provincial government controls what's going on with that. So it's like we're pretty close. You guys have a prime minister, we have a prime minister. You guys control us by the Queen. But so in Ontario, tripped me out
when I saw the Queen on the Canadian money. I was like, you got the Queen as well.
One of my favorite battle lines ever was Tricky P versus Definition. He had a line about flipping the coin over with the Queen once he landed in London, flipping the coin over and hitting her bareback. But in Ontario, man, we have we'll open and then 2 weeks later a month lockdown, and like they're never just locked down for a certain amount of time. And with us, like my other question on COVID with you is it political with you guys? With us, it's completely like left versus right. Like it's 100%. All they never bring anything that's just like civil rights and like the whole Black Lives Matter movement. People try to make it political when it's a human right. Is it political like that for you guys over there with COVID?
Yeah, it's very political and it's very divided. I mean, like everyone's got their different opinions and like, yeah, it's tricky, man. Like, there's people that are for the vaccination, people that are against the vaccination, and it causes such like a big like people are so angry with each other. But yeah, man, it's really interesting, mad times. And yeah, there's a lot of other stuff going on right now. Do you know what I mean? A lot of like, protests and riots. Yeah, like a lot of there's a thing at the moment that they're trying to take away. It's kind of like a protest and riot where the police kind of have more control over protests, basically, so they can shut them down and like control them more. But there's been a lot of protests about that kind of thing. There's just like, and there's been, obviously the same thing with the Black Lives Matter. There's been a lot of that last year, protests, issues, women's rights as well. Like there's been so much madness going on.
Yeah.
And all among this like global pandemic as well. I think people are, and like I said, it's affected so many people in different ways. I've been lucky that I haven't really been affected from it too much. I've been able to carry on working from home, and it's been okay for me. But I mean, it's certain people in different kind of fields, it's kind of really like messed things up. So it's such a mess right now. Putting it all back in order, and the economics of it all, I can't even get my head around it.
I know it's been so long at this point. Then how to like what is normal going to be? It's just such a. But yeah, no, I went to a Black Lives Matter protest in June, and it was like one of the most inspirational things I've ever been to, and everybody like had masks on and stuff. And like a
Yeah,
month later, there was an anti-mask rally, and like they
yeah,
were all like they were like hurting people and like yelling at cops and stuff. But then they try to say that like the peaceful protests aren't peaceful, but the unpeaceful protests are peaceful, and it's such a
yeah,
sad world we live in. So like, yeah,
yeah.
it's been a tough year, man. Everybody's been battling through it all, no matter what it is, right?
100%. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
um, all right. So I end off every episode with asking two pieces of advice you would give to anybody or yourself 10 years ago. Just because I feel like anybody in this world, no matter who they are, where they are, what they are, that they all have something to give. And like I know I'm interested in you, and I know you have a lot to give. So just random two things of positivity, because it's, as we were talking about, it's been such a negative world the last while.
yeah. Piece of advice. Wow, I find it hard to come up with something. Like I don't know what to say. I'm just thinking like I don't know, man. I think just be yourself, be your best self. Like just it's hard to really like define. Like it depends what you're doing and stuff. But yeah, I'm sorry, man.
It's
I'm not
okay,
answered that very
dude.
well.
I'm not gonna lie to you. So like, cause like I'm very like I don't plan shit out, and I just like have like certain things in my mind, like a freestyle of the interview.
Yeah,
And dude,
yeah,
so I've done 4 interviews now, and every time I'm like, I thought it was gonna be a segment because I'm a big podcast listener. I thought it was gonna be like,
yeah.
okay, this is gonna be 6 send off. The first one, nameless, was like. I don't know, man. Like, it depends what you're doing. Like, I could, just be a good person. Lush one said, I wouldn't give myself advice or talk to myself because like I wouldn't be here right now.
That's a good one. That's a
and
good
then,
one. That's a
and
good
then
one.
my friend, I interviewed my friend who's from India who now lives in Ottawa where I live, and we
Mm,
just spoke about our lives. And his was buy Bitcoin twice. That so every answer has been kind of like I might try to do. So let's you know what?
yeah,
Here's a freestyle.
yeah.
Your favorite food that you've been missing out on not being able to go to restaurants. Like I know everybody orders takeout, but I haven't had all you can eat sushi in forever.
Okay. Favorite food from a restaurant. Yeah, like I say, I do order, so I feel like I haven't missed anything too much.
Well, I don't know about UK, but like where I am, you can go to an all you can eat sushi for like 15
Yeah,
bucks at
yeah,
lunchtime and get all you want, but you can't order that through delivery. You have to pay individually when you
yeah.
get delivery.
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Honestly, like I still order this takeaway, but even going to restaurants is what I like. But there's a lot of good Indian food here. Like the Indian food is banging here. I would say it's probably my favorite cuisine. I like Asian food in general. Big fan of spicy food. I love food from China and Thailand as well. Um, yeah, man. I would put those foods.
All right, man. Yeah, no, I worked at a before the lockdown. I worked at a Cambodian and Laotian place, and I hosted a hip hop trivia night once a month. It was like one of the coolest jobs
Oh,
ever.
really?
Yeah, yeah. And it was so funny because it was just me being like a big hip hop head. So I'd be like, "What did Cannabis say on this
Yeah.
song?" And then nobody would ever get the question right, so I'd have to dumb down my.
Oh man, we used to do. There was a hip hop pub quiz here like, a few years ago that we used to enter all the time. It's so fun, man.
Yeah,
I miss doing that kind of shit.
it's gonna be great for things to reopen, man.
Yeah, I can't wait, man.
Do you have any music that you've been working on?
Yeah, man. This is like this microphone I bought recently in lockdown, so I can just start recording more music from home. And I've got a few things in the pipeline. I released a couple tracks on my YouTube very recently. You can go check them out. All my tracks right now are just like video tracks. Like they're always like there's a video to go along with the music. So my first track I did was like the emoji rap, where I basically do a rap where I just like reference as many emojis as possible in my rap, and I have the emojis flashing up as I rap. I did that one. I did another video where it's just like kind of random, but just like loads of video footage that goes along with what I'm rapping. You know, in these mad kind of edit styles that I like to do of just like loads of flashing imagery from like horror movies and weird shit. And I've got a few more videos like that, but I'm doing a lot of these video rapping videos. Like I like narrate through rap. So there's always a visual going on and I'm like rhyming about what's going on. I've got a few of those like lined up. I'm just like kind of trying to perfect the recording of them. And I'm just going to keep putting them out on my YouTube and all my socials. And that's basically all I've been doing at the moment. Not working on an album or anything, just kind of doing these kind of YouTube videos.
Awesome. And your YouTube specifically, is it Cruger7?
Correct. Yeah, man. Cruger 7.
So Cruger7 on YouTube. Look him up on YouTube as well to check out his battles. If you want to have a laugh, look up rapping for a Zinger Tower Burger, or one of my favorite songs that's kind of like funny, but it's actually a really good song by his is VIG, Very Important Geezer. Or he has a great verse if you want to look up Don't Flop New Year's Cypher. There's a great verse in there.
Shit. Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Oh, I've been a fan forever, man. I just want to say, like, I appreciate the opportunity of just chopping it up with you, and I'm just trying to do something that gets people to speak, you know. And
this has been such a great conversation. I've enjoyed it so much, man. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it, man. We're gonna end the episode now. I'm gonna speak to Cruger for a second when it's done, but thanks for listening. You can listen to it on all platforms. Spotify is where it's listened to most, but keep listening. Who knows what'll happen in the future? And thanks for joining me on my journey. Bye.